This video is about the history of Murder, She Wrote. Who was behind its creation? What influenced the show and the character of Jessica Fletcher? The casting, the behind-the-scenes fights and changes, the spin-off, a theme park show, tie-in merchandise, as well as talk about its reach beyond the TV show and what the future holds. Chapter 1. Intro. A quick summary for the uninitiated. Murder, She Wrote is an hour-long cozy murder mystery that aired on CBS starring Angela Lansbury as a mystery writer and often murder solver Jessica Fletcher. But who is Jessica Fletcher? What makes her tick? And how does she operate? Here is an excerpt from the series Bible by executive producer and writer Peter S. Fisher that he would give to other writers on the show. She is warm and compassionate, intelligent and curious, funny without being sarcastic or hurtful. Her humor is more irony and bemusement. She is strong-willed, but once she gets an idea in her head, no amount of bullshit can deter her. She isn't a detective or a policeman. She is not judgmental, schoolmarmish, prissy, or old-fashioned. She is contemporary in her thinking. When Jessica is investigating a crime, this is very important, she has no franchise, no business being involved. Therefore, she has to behave in such a way that either the suspects want to talk to her or they don't realize what she's up to. Also, she is not the hero. When she discovers something, she tells the police. Nor is she naive. Her home is a small town, but she has been exposed to all strata of society. Even though she is more intelligent than the people she is dealing with, she avoids letting them know that. In fact, one reason she's as successful as she is because those around her underestimate her. The show ran for 12 seasons, 264 episodes, and 4 TV movies.
Can't be. I'm afraid so.
In a cross-country adventure,
You may be in danger.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Angela Lansbury in a Murder, She Wrote movie tonight.
Episodes usually follow one of the following formats. In Jessica at Home episode, she teams up with the Cabot Cove Sheriff to solve a local murder. In the travel episodes, Jess is usually visiting a friend or relative who is often accused of a murder, and so Jess is forced to solve the crime to clear the name of her loved one. And finally, there are bookend episodes, where Jessica only appears briefly to open and close the episodes. Most of the time, she breaks the fourth wall in these episodes to address the audience directly, but there are exceptions. Chapter 2. Mystery Origins. Our story begins with Columbo. Well, technically, you could say it begins with Mannix. Hell, I guess you could say it started when two kids named Bill and Dick met in junior high and bonded over their shared love of magic tricks. But for the sake of this video, we're going to say Murder, She Wrote really began with... Columbo was a TV series created by William Link and Richard Levinson. Each episode would start with the audience witnessing a murder, then they see the killer cover up the crime, and then they are introduced to the seemingly befuddled but always brilliant Columbo.
Oh, there's one more thing, sir.
He charms the killer with his folksiness, but inevitably outwits them and solves the crime. This format of witnessing the killer commit the crime and then get caught is known as a How Catch'em. In season 3 of the show, Lincoln Levinson brought in writer Peter S. Fisher. The trio worked well together, and eventually they were given the opportunity to make... Ellery Queen was a mystery series that centered around a famous mystery writer who solves complicated murders that featured an all-star guest cast. Seem familiar? The show takes place in 1947 New York. Ellery is extremely intelligent, but also kind of clumsy and a bad driver. He's absent-minded and not great with the ladies. He lives with his father, Inspector Richard Queen, and he has a rival, radio show host and amateur sleuth Simon Brimmer. Simon always gets the wrong killer, so Ellery has no choice but to correct him.
Simon, you've got the wrong murderer.
What?
You're about to accuse the wrong person. The killer's a she, not a he.
Each episode started with a voiceover introducing us to the victim and the suspects.
In a few minutes, this woman will be dead. The question is, who killed her?
After the introduction, they go into the theme song, followed by the start of the episode. Before the big reveal of the killer, Ellery would break the fourth wall and address the audience directly, asking them if they had solved the mystery, going over the suspects again and giving any final clues that might be helpful.
I've got it. How do you have it figured? Was it the husband? The stepdaughter? The lawyer? Or the doctor? Or the nurse? Or somebody else? Now, I know you don't think it was Simon Brimmer. Or do you? Anyway, there's a hint. The body was moved to make room for something. And time is of the essence.
The episodes used play fair clues, meaning everything the audience needed to solve the crime had been presented to them, with no information hidden.
I couldn't let her do that to you. Or to me. I just couldn't let her do it.
Despite this, they could be a little overly complicated sometimes in my opinion. In many ways, Ellery Queen feels like Murder, She Wrote 1.0. And not just because so many people who appeared in Ellery Queen would go on to be on Murder, She Wrote as well.
In a few minutes, this famous cartoonist will be dead. Who killed him? Was it the ambitious lettering man?
You're trying to pin this on me.
The layout expert? Marion McHale, the jealous wife? His unhappy wife? The stepdaughter? Tom, the son with a dangerous temper? The radio mystery star? The cheating business partner? The needy nephew? Was it the frustrated nephew? Her fiancé? The fiancé with the shady past? The live-in nurse? The delivery boy? Was it the fortune-hunting husband? The Broadway bombshell? The angry Egyptian? This character assassin? The temperamental artist? The kissing cousin? The hillbilly song plugger? The frightened widow? His disillusioned secretary? The faithful secretary? The ambitious secretary? The ambitious ex-wife? The ambitious singer? Or was it someone else?
If you enjoy Murder, She Wrote, though, I think you'll enjoy Ellery Queen. Or perhaps you already have without knowing it. More on that later. So, sadly, Ellery Queen only lasted one season. But it was a critical darling, and Link, Levinson, and Fisher all continued to work on various TV shows until, in 1983, CBS called them up and let them know they wanted to do a mystery show. Immediately, the trio pitched an idea about a magician who uses magic and illusion to solve mysteries. Carla Singer, senior development executive at CBS, was like, sounds great, but not what we're thinking at all. According to Peter Fisher, from moment one, we could see we were on the wrong page. What we really were hoping for, Carla told us, was a mystery with a strong female lead. She also needn't be particularly young. You see, CBS had just aired the TV movie A Caribbean Mystery, and it was a big success. Originally an Agatha Christie book, it starred Helen Hayes as Miss Marple, a sweet older woman who leaves her small village of St. Mary Mead to vacation in the Caribbean. While there, she meets a major who tells her a story about how he has a photograph of a killer, and while getting the photograph he pauses, looks up, and appears to recognize the killer among the crowd at the resort. The bodies start to pile up as Miss Marple races to catch the killer. Rather than being a period piece, this adaptation gave it a modern 80s setting. Watching this TV movie, you can see the influence it had on Murder, She Wrote and the character of Jessica Fletcher. According to Fisher, why don't we meld Miss Marple and Miss Christie into one character? A mystery writer who actually solves murder mysteries using logic, good sense, observation, and a twinkly sense of humor that masks the sharp brain lurking beneath a very attractive hairdo. Another requirement. While Miss Marple and Miss Christie are British through and through, our heroine had to be 100% American, middle class, with Yankee forthrightness and integrity. She's a voracious reader. Make her an English teacher who secretly writes murder mysteries for her own amusement, never dreaming that she would ever show one of her manuscripts to anyone. We want her as a standalone character, free to move about, unencumbered by children or a husband, so we make her a widow who had a wonderful marriage and now has been alone for several years. Link, Levinson, and Fisher got to work on the story for the pilot. Levinson came up with the main gimmick. What if it was Who Killed Sherlock Holmes?
Murdered?
From there, Fisher was able to develop a plot about a murder at a costume party that Jessica attends, with the victim wearing a Sherlock Holmes costume and a possible case of mistaken identity. CBS loved the story and wanted a script right away. And once the script was approved, the commitment to film the 2-hour pilot movie was in place. There was only one caveat. The commitment would be canceled if they couldn't find the right actress to play Jessica. The trio already knew that casting would be crucial to the success of the project. While working on the story and script, they had tossed around ideas, once again according to Fisher. We considered and discarded many former movie stars, some because they had no interest in doing television, others who were retired, others because they didn't project the quality we were looking for. Number one, this lady had to be instantly likable, not just act likable. That eliminated a lot of contenders. She had to exude intelligence. There goes some more. She had to be down to earth and not reek of big city sophistication. Bye-bye to another bunch.
My favorite time of day is night.
The role of Jessica Fletcher was actually initially offered to Jean Stapleton.
We choose parts for other reasons.
Yeah.
If they're good and they're right for us and they evoke laughter.
Already a beloved actress and known to television audiences playing Edith Bunker on All in the Family, she seemed like a natural fit for what the writers in CBS were looking for. CBS wanted someone with a high Q rating, a rating based on a performer's recognizability and likability. Jean read the script and politely passed.
Now, why did you turn down the role?
Because, well, I had just come off of 8.5 years in a series. I'm sure that had its part in it, but it didn't seem to be the kind of role I could really get my teeth into. And it just didn't have enough color for me, and I found that those in charge are rather rigid about changes, which I had discussed, and I thought, well, it would be a hard row.
Thanks, Freddie, foreshadowing.
June Allison was considered. Although she had not starred in her own TV series, she would have been known to TV audiences.
June Allison for Depend Undergarments.
Listen to this letter. I'm leading an active life again. Depend is a godsend. Isn't that wonderful?
Well, I don't appreciate your leaving your big old box of June Allison bladder pads on my nightstand for all the maids and bellboys to see.
Rhonda Fleming was another actress considered. They had already worked with her on one of my favorite episodes of Ellery Queen, The Adventure of the Mad Tea Party.
One of these people is responsible. Was it the Dormouse?
Spencer's gone.
But like June Allison, she had not starred in her own television series. IMDb lists in the trivia for Murder, She Wrote that Doris Day was considered. I wasn't able to find that in my research, but I would believe her name would have been tossed around while they were considering former movie stars.
Que sera, sera.
She had already worked in television for the Doris Day Show.
Que sera, sera.
And would have met the network's desired Q rating factor.
Chapter 3. Here Comes Angela.
At this same time, Angela Lansbury was at a crossroads. She had been in film, although she often talked about how the studio didn't view her as beautiful or a glamorous leading lady. Absolutely wild to me.
The only thing we're up for, darling, is grabs.
Audiences at the time would have mostly known her for her theater roles, such as originating the role of Mame on Broadway and Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd. But the roles were slowing down, and a tour of Mame went about as badly as it could go, according to her biography.
Doing Mame again was, like so many of her money-motivated decisions, a poor one. The schedule called for playing the big East Coast cities in midsummer, when middle-class audiences took vacations. At the first preview, dancer and choreographer Diana Baffa Brill looked through the curtain peephole and saw nothing but oceans of empty seats. The closing notice was put up opening day, and the engagement was aborted after a week. With virtually no advance sale in Boston, it was canceled and the show came directly to New York, without any advance publicity or advertising. Baffa Brill called it nightmare, nightmare, nightmare. Angela was devastated by the experience.
Angela Lansbury won her first Tony for the 1966 musical with a popular score by Jerry Herman. This production has not aged as well as Angela Lansbury. The musical seems stiff and dated, while Lansbury is limber and raring to go.
At this same time, she had been working with Sondheim on a musical version of Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, yes.
Ultimately, Sondheim decided to walk away from the idea after a discussion with Billy Wilder, the co-writer and director of the film Sunset Boulevard. Wilder said it had to be an opera, as it was about a dethroned queen. Sondheim had to agree, saying, "Angie would be a great Norma Desmond. If I wanted to do an opera, this is certainly a possibility. But I don't want to do an opera, so this is not a possibility." With theater not going so well, her brother Bruce Lansbury, who was head of television programming at Paramount Pictures Television, suggested she give a TV series a try. Angela had previously been resistant to the idea of television. Working on a TV show is a big time commitment. It keeps you away from other projects. It often feels repetitive and not challenging as an actor. But at this stage in her career, Angela felt she had to go where the work was, and 2 television shows were actually calling. While meeting Link, Levinson, and Fisher for lunch to discuss Jessica Fletcher, Angela let them know that she had been approached by Norman Lear for a 30-minute situational comedy. Lear was of course a huge name in television, having produced hits like All in the Family and Maude for Angela's close friend Bea Arthur. According to her biography, the Norman Lear proposal was a husband and wife detective series. As a half-hour situation comedy, it would be performed live on stage, in a theater, before an audience, and with 3 cameras video recording it. In contrast, the Link Levinson pilot was for a 1-hour show, an anthology series that was made like a movie, on film with 1 camera and of course, no audience. Link, Levinson, and Fisher all resigned themselves to the idea that Angela would turn them down. Murder, She Wrote would not only be the harder show to film, it would also be the harder sell to audiences. To quote Fisher, "Except for Angie Dickinson, Policewoman, Linda Carter, Wonder Woman, and Anne Francis, Honey West, the history of primetime television was littered with the bodies of talented actresses in 1-hour dramas machine gunned to death by A.C. Nielsen's assassins." A Norman Lear sitcom seemed like a sure thing. Even Angela's agent, Jerry Katzman, urged her to do the sitcom, feeling it would obviously be picked up because it was Norman Lear and it would ultimately be easier and more comfortable. Her biography describes the conversation with Katzman like this. Angela replied, "I'm sure you're right, but this Jessica Fletcher stimulates me." "If that's what you prefer," Katzman said, "we'll do it. But that's a tough and grueling exercise. And I'm going to say something else that you're not going to like. In the history of television, there hasn't been a dramatic show with a woman lead that has been successful, except for Policewoman, and that was only a moderate success. So it's a real long shot." But, she argued, I love it that it's a long shot. The Sure Thing of the Norman Lear sitcom, which was called Pop, went on to film with Bea Arthur and Charles Durning. Despite everyone telling Angela to do this one, it did not get picked up and appears to be lost media, even though the pilot movie aired in 1984. Here's the only reference I can find to it.
Then Bea Arthur and Charles Durning come together for a half-hour of laughs on Pop.
And that's it. Hours of searching, and that is the only video proof I have it ever existed. Angela accepted the long shot of Jessica Fletcher, but she was going to learn that this role would be unlike any of her other roles. She met with Fisher to discuss wigs and costumes. Fisher let her know that there wouldn't be any wigs. She'd more or less be playing herself. Angela wasn't sure she could do that. She'd never done that before. Fisher let her know that the schedule was so exhausting that she'd be grateful to play someone so close to herself. Her biography confirms that Fisher was right about this. Scripts were between 50 and 60 pages, depending on the number of locations, and most scenes involved Jessica. The gotchas, the end of the episode where Jess explains who did it and how and why, were so dialogue heavy that Angela eventually requested cue cards, although I don't think you'd ever be able to tell. Each episode would take 8 days to film, but the show aired weekly, meaning she was always working long days with a time deficit. Chapter 4, the first season. So they had their star, now they needed a title. Once again, they turned to Agatha Christie. In the 1960s, there was a British film based on the Miss Marple mystery 450 to Paddington, which changed the title to Murder, She Said.
Now you saw that, didn't you? Do you think anyone will believe us?
From there, it wasn't a far jump for Link, Levinson, and Fisher to get to Murder, She Wrote.
Well, if they won't believe us, we'll just have to go and solve this crime ourselves.
Fisher brought on Robert O'Neill to serve as line producer. Bob had a tough job. Before the pilot was finished filming, they needed to sell to advertisers. Rather than show advertisers a half-finished television episode, they filmed Angela as Jessica, introducing story elements from her typewriter and charming the audience.
Oh, forgive me. I was so busy typing. You see, this is the moment. This is the moment where the Lebanese cook is going to make it look as if Alicia committed suicide in the pantry. Oh, I am so silly. You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? This is my latest book. My, 6th, I think. My name, I think you know, J.B. Fletcher.
Despite not having a completed pilot, the pitch pilot was so effective that every advertiser wanted in. However, according to both Fisher and Lansbury, the vibe from some at CBS was that this show wouldn't finish a full season before being canceled. Despite this, the trio of Link, Levinson, and Fisher had pretty good standing with Harvey Shepard, the head of programming at CBS, who loved the script, loved the pilot, and loved Angela. He really believed this could be what put CBS back on top on Sunday nights, and put it after 60 minutes.
We've got great new show! Once again this year, you're set to meet some new friends.
He also agreed to a larger budget for casting. Fisher wanted to cast a mix of old Hollywood stars and young talent, and the typical going rate of $12.50 an episode would not attract the caliber of star they wanted. Fisher wanted to offer a minimum of $5,000 to as high as $15,000, and CBS agreed. Initially, they wanted casting approval, but as we'll learn, Fisher doesn't like to wait for anyone else's approval. He eventually got them to cave and was able to go ahead without their approval needed each episode. It was also decided that, aside from Angela, all cast members would be credited alphabetically, as they had done with Ellery Queen. If a guest star had a problem with it, they could choose to go uncredited. The first season of the show introduced us to several recurring characters. There was, of course, Frank Fletcher, Jessica's husband, who starts the show already dead, but factors into various plots. In one episode, he's accused of a long-ago murder, and Jessica must solve the cold case.
That tin horn investigator has elected himself judge, jury. He has labeled Frank a murderer.
In another, he may have possibly fathered a child with Vera Miles.
Your husband and I were more than just friends. Stephen is Frank's son.
Frank and Jessica didn't have any children of their own, but they did raise her nephew Grady after his parents died in a car accident when he was a child. Grady is kind of a mess. He changes jobs and girlfriends every episode he's in, and he's constantly being accused of murder.
Mrs. Fletcher! Oh, thank God I caught you. What's the matter, Sharon? Oh, it's Grady. He's been arrested. Arrested? For what? For suspicion of murder.
Jessica has many nieces and nephews, but the only recurring niece is Victoria and her husband Howard.
If I love him, how can I justify spying on him?
For your own peace of mind.
My favorite episode of theirs is their first episode, where Howard is a drag queen in a nightclub in San Francisco that has no gay people performing in it.
There's a somebody I'm longing to see.
In Cabot Cove, there's our first of 3 sheriffs, Sheriff Amos Tupper. His character is pleasant, but maybe a little dim, not quite able to solve the town murders without Jessica's help.
Well, I'll be.
There's the fisherman, Ethan Cragg. If Ethan has no haters, then I'm dead. He only lasts a few episodes in the first season, but he's too much of a roughneck to be believable friends with Jessica, and according to Fisher, behind the scenes the actor was asking for more money, not happy about playing second fiddle, and so he left pretty early on in the series. And finally, we meet Harry McGraw. He's very much a Sam Spade type. He's loudmouth and uncouth, but he gets the job done.
He was bird dog in 3 cases, one of which was yours.
He actually got his own spin-off, but put a pin in that for now. The first season was a success, and the show was nominated for a Golden Globe, and so was Angela. They both won.
As the oldest new girl in town, this is really, it's the golden cherry on the sundae, truthfully. I really am so proud. I can't begin to tell you.
It seemed like they'd be able to repeat that success when it came to the Emmys that year. However, the only Emmy the show would receive in its freshman year would be for the theme song. Angela would go on to be nominated every year of the show and never win.
And the winner is Tyne Daly for Cagney and Lacey.
And the Emmy goes to
Dana Delaney, China Beach.
The Emmy goes to Kathy Baker.
I don't know. They just weren't terribly interested in it.
Chapter 5. The Show Goes On. With one season under their belt, Angela and Peter met to discuss the second season. He noticed that she'd lost weight, and she admitted that she'd been on a diet because she wasn't happy with how she looked in some episodes. She wanted Jessica to dress more sophisticated, and she was looking for more challenges. Fisher had some exciting news for her. She'd get to play her identical cousin, music hall singer Emma McGill.
They're cousins, identical cousins all the way.
Named after a combination of the saloon girl she played in Harvey Girls and her mother's name. She would also get to play Jessica going undercover as Marguerite Canfield, a wealthy recluse, to help solve a murder. That episode would also introduce recurring character Michael Haggerty, played by her Sweeney Todd co-star.
I know what I want, Mr. Haggerty, and I get it.
That sounds like a challenge.
Who was a spy and often got Jessica caught up in international intrigue. We'd also get our replacement Ethan Cragg, the much more appropriate Dr. Seth Hazlitt. It would make sense for him to be at murder scenes as the town doctor.
Look, I do have some patients to attend to, Ms. Perry.
And he would be more of an intellectual equal for Jessica, with them often playing chess together. Our most unique recurring character is introduced in the second season, Harry Pierce, played by John Astin. He starts the show as a realtor and eventually becomes sheriff after Amos retires. However, he ends up being the killer in an episode and Jessica must confront her friend.
You weren't much of a lawman. You also weren't much of a killer either.
Killer?
That's crazy.
I wish it were, Harry.
For the show's third season, they would do their first and only crossover episode. Magnum P.I. had been struggling, and they thought a boost from the very successful Murder, She Wrote might help. There was a problem, however, as the Magnum crew wanted to be the second part of the 2-part crossover. That did not work for Murder, She Wrote, as the show always ends in a gotcha, where Jessica confronts the killer. Naturally, as Jessica can't catch the killer in the first hour with a whole second hour left, Murder, She Wrote got to be the second part. This season would also be when Angela would get her son Anthony a job directing. As a teenager, Anthony was addicted to very hard drugs. Unsure of what else to do, Angela gave up her career to move her family to Ireland to help him get clean.
Let me go to Ireland, and let me find a house for us. And perhaps if we totally change our way of life, and we go back to basics.
As Fisher puts it, she had fought for her son then, she was ready to fight for him now. His directorial debut is an episode I very much enjoy. The bottom line is murder, although behind the scenes it was a little shaky apparently.
Steve, damn it! Can't you do something about these lights? They're burning a hole in my head.
Don't tell me.
Once again, according to Fisher, Angela realized Anthony was capable of better work and she was determined to do something about it. Over the upcoming hiatus, she found him a coach who worked with Anthony for long hours, teaching him the fundamentals and developing his skills. It paid off. For season 4, we would give Anthony another shot. His work was considerably better. Angie, who had always gave 100%, gave 110% when Anthony was directing. He soon became one of our regulars. Sadly, in March of 1987, as the season was winding down, Dick Levinson died of a heart attack. He was only 52.
Our goal was the same, and we were best friends. And we wrote easily together. I mean, writing is always difficult, but there was no effort. I mean, we were highly ambitious, and we were really directed. We knew what our destination was, and we were best friends.
The third season introduced us to the Cabot Cove mayor, Sam Booth. He's folksy and silly and over the top in a way I kind of got the impression Angela did not enjoy.
But I was a little worried. I thought he was maybe going a little too far. I felt he jeopardized my character by being so down east, you know.
Then you are running. I knew it, I knew it.
The fourth season of the show introduces my favorite recurring characters, the gossiping gaggle of gals from the beauty parlor. There's Loretta Spiegel, who runs the beauty parlor.
But when the trouble's in the bedroom.
Corinne, her assistant. Ideal Malloy is cheerful but vacant.
Oh, I don't go to the Paradise Motel. I only go to the cafe there because it has the best clam chowder in the whole shore.
Phyllis Grant is the town travel agent, and Eve Simpson is the real estate agent.
Deputy Martin stopped in to help you with your cat on a fairly regular basis.
Oh, she's a very bad cat.
Eve would actually appear in the most episodes and be given the most to do in an episode, like discovering a body, possibly because they had previously worked with her on Ellery Queen. We also get introduced to Donna, Grady's new fiancée and later wife. Interestingly, she is the killer in her introductory episode, but it is self-defense and he was trying to kill her, so it's fine. She gets away with it.
And you found yourself in the freezer.
He grabbed me. He was going to hit me again.
And that's when you grabbed the frozen yellowtail.
I just swung at him.
One other major change was going to happen during the fourth season, and that was that Murder, She Wrote was going to get its own spin-off. Chapter 6, The Spin-Off. So while Murder, She Wrote is going on, Link, Levinson, and Fisher are all doing other projects too. They started that magician show they talked about, called Black's Magic, but Fisher admits he wasn't great to the show as a writer or a producer, and when the show was canceled after 13 episodes, Fisher did not want to make the same mistake twice. He used his clout to guarantee episodes for a series, and he really believed in it. Which is great. Love that for him. The result, however... So Harry is a great character, and who doesn't love Jerry Orbach? He's very charming and by all accounts seemed like a great guy. However, this show just did not work for me, and I am not a hard sell on a detective show. The basic premise of the spin-off is that Harry McGraw works with his niece in his own private detective agency across the hall from a sexy widow lawyer and her nephew. There's also sometimes a rival prosecutor, Tyler Chase. The niece, EJ, was level-headed and practical, but I can't stand this actress's performance. She's making like sitcom choices for a show that is very much not filmed like a sitcom. Ellie McGinnis, the lawyer, is smart and sexy. If Harry is based off Sam Spade, she's based off another Dashiell Hammett creation, Nora Charles. The outfits she wears and the performance feel very much inspired by Myrna Loy in The Thin Man. Her nephew, Steve, was kind of a yuppie, had a new girl every episode. And then there's romantic rival Tyler Chase, who wants Ellie. I think the general idea was that Harry and McGinnis would eventually get together, while the niece and nephew had their own will they, won't they, but the show didn't last long enough. And Moonlighting, this is not. The chemistry is fine, but the scripts were not anywhere near the sharpness of what Moonlighting was doing at the time. I was actually really excited by the pilot movie. The pilot is a Hal Ketchum, like Columbo was, and I thought, what an exciting way to differentiate themselves from Murder, She Wrote as a spin-off. But the second episode was a whodunit, and a bad one at that. Harry doesn't confront the killer at all. He just reveals he knows who the killer is, and the killer confesses off-screen. The third episode is a North by Northwest homage. Episodes that follow are various mysteries, but mostly whodunits, never going back to a Hal Ketchum again. It seemed to struggle for an identity to me, and that, combined with issues like being moved around by the network, meant the show failed. Fisher wrote how Jerry was doing everything he could to save the show, but ultimately I think it's for the best the show didn't last. He certainly went on to better things that he's more fondly remembered for.
Well, these black suits keep you nice and warm, huh?
You know, Walt Whitman and Montgomery Clift are buried around here somewhere.
Better them than me.
Chapter 7. The Final Season? Production got underway for the 5th and possibly final season. Angela's contract was only for 5 seasons, and she still had other aspirations. Like I said, the hours were long and the work could be repetitive and not enough of a challenge for its star. The show had to introduce a new sheriff, as Tom Bosley had gotten his own show, The Father Dowling Mysteries. They brought in Ron Masak to replace him as Sheriff Metzger from New York, who thinks things will be easy here in sleepy Cabot Cove compared to the big city where he's from.
Oh, come on. Lighten up, Mr. Mayor. Sleepy little town like this, what can happen? See ya.
We also got a new recurring deputy, Deputy Floyd. He's pretty incompetent, but likable. There's also suave jewel thief Dennis Stanton introduced. He's a fun match for Jessica, kind of like a Batman Catwoman if they were gender reversed and in their 60s.
I can actually see the cogwheels turning in that pretty head of yours.
As the season went on, no one knew what Angela would do. As Angela was quoted saying in her biography, "I'd always been available to run to a theater here, a theater there. Suddenly I was unable to do that. Suddenly I was trapped." She loved her audience, but there were financial considerations as well. You see, Angela wasn't paid directly by CBS for her part. She was paid through her own family's production company, Corymore Productions. CBS paid her production studio a certain amount of money each episode for various production costs, including the use of Angela, so it was not just her livelihood caught up in the show, but also her family's. The writing team seemed to be operating under the assumption that she would not renew. They wrote a 2-part finale taking place in Cabot Cove. I didn't want the video to be a summary of episodes. For that, I recommend Pushing Up Rose's videos. Those are great.
So this guy is dead?
But I do feel like it is necessary to talk about how they plan to finish the show. The 2-part finale would be about a rival writer who is jealous of Jessica's success as her own career dwindles. At the same time, Jess and Seth are arguing over how much Jessica works, with Seth pointing out that Frank would want her to stop and smell the roses. Seth is eventually accidentally poisoned by an apple meant for Jessica and is in the hospital. The episode was to end with the murder solved and Jess looking at the rival author's life, how consumed with work she was, how she had no one. Realizes that Seth was right. She gets up from her typewriter to join an already healed Seth on his boat. The two embrace, and Jessica will no longer be putting her work above her relationship with Seth. That's right, the writers were Sethica shippers. Fortunately for me, as someone who hates the idea of Murder, She Wrote ending, and as someone who does not enjoy Seth as a romantic partner for Jess, as the crew went to Mendocino to film for the final episode, Angela signed a new contract. The ending slightly altered to no longer be a romantic send-off. But her new contract would present some challenges for the show. Chapter 8, 9 Hours Without Angela. So Angela agreed to come back, but only for 13 episodes a season. That left the writers with a problem: what to do with 9 episodes that don't include her. These are where those bookend episodes come in. They had previously done one of these in season 3, having Jessica open the episode by addressing the audience directly and introducing the story to us. In that case, it was one of her books. I wish they had continued to do that, making each bookend episode a different book of Jessica's so they at least feel a little more connected to her. But the scripts were mostly unproduced mystery pilots the writers clearly had in a drawer. One episode is even an unproduced Ellery Queen script, so another connection between the two shows. The characters and script were slightly altered. Jessica introduces us to a mystery from 1947. Instead of Inspector Queen and Ellery Queen, it's Lieutenant McGinn and his son, Christy McGinn. Christy is no world-famous mystery writer, he's a famous crossword puzzle creator.
The same Christopher McGinn who devises those fiendishly clever puzzles in the Men's Quarterly.
And failing newspaper writer. They even kept the Simon Brimmer analog, and he gets to be a radio host and amateur sleuth still. I was really hoping Jessica would ask the audience if they solved it, but she just opens and closes the episode. Dennis Stanton gets his own mini spin-off, with 7 episodes across the next 2 seasons focusing on him working for an insurance company, and uses his jewel thief knowledge and trusty umbrella to solve crimes and catch the killer. These episodes had their own cast of recurring characters. There was his gal Friday and secretary, his annoying boss, and the police lieutenant who doesn't trust him. These bookend episodes were not popular and eventually got phased out of the show, with Angela agreeing to do all episodes, which is what the audience wanted. Chapter 9: The Attraction. The Universal Tram Tour at Universal Hollywood Studios would go through the Cabot Cove Harbor set, but that wasn't the only way to experience Murder, She Wrote in a theme park. You may not have known, but there was an attraction based on the TV show at Universal Studios Florida when the park first opened in 1990. At the time, Florida was trying to entice Hollywood to film in our state, bringing in those big Hollywood dollars. As part of that, Universal Studios Florida, when it first opened, was very much a functioning studio, and the attractions were more based around the industry and how it worked.
As you can see, getting a miniature city ready for the camera takes a team of experts.
The Murder, She Wrote attraction was called Murder, She Wrote, post-production, sponsored by JVC. It starred Angela Lansbury in a fake Murder, She Wrote episode, while the audience played the part of producers of the show.
You know, I am so delighted that you've agreed to help out and become our executive producer.
Being asked to respond to questions in unison with the answer,
Look at all the time I saved you. I think I deserve a big fat raise, don't you? No, not at all.
Each showroom taught a different aspect of how the series makes it from the soundstage to the small screen. The attraction started with Angela on screen greeting the guests, letting them know that they've signed on to be executive producers for Murder, She Wrote. Guests moved into the first of 3 theaters. In the first theater, the host was the editor. The host explained how, with some help from a computer, they can help fix things in post-production that were not captured while filming.
It's a computer graphic system that paints on electronically, which means I can alter the image of these shoes. Now I'm going to paint on the flower electronically.
In the second theater, guests were now in a Foley soundstage.
Foley stage, named after its developer, Jack Foley of Universal.
The sound designer explained how the sounds were created for television. Several members from the audience were picked to perform the various sound effects. While the episode played on screen so the audience could see how the sound effects were done in real time. I vividly remember this room because I remember wanting so badly to be called on stage to do something. The final room was the sound editor, where 2 guests, a man and a woman, were picked to do the voiceover lines for 2 characters in the episode. After that, audiences watched the 3-minute episode with their added sound effects. Interestingly, I was able to find 2 home video versions uploaded to YouTube, and they each had a different killer.
That leaves Tyler or Professor Astruc. Astruc's the murderer. Arrest him, deputy. It's a lie. Tyler's the one.
To clean the flour from the mill off his shoes, Professor Astruc.
You're out of your mind.
They also had a Tom Selleck cameo at the end in both versions I saw, but one version implied it could be anyone.
Who'd you like Jessica to meet for dinner? Give me some ideas here. Hunks, movie star guy. Tom Selleck, good start. Give me a couple more. James Garner, good. Mel Gibson, Patrick Swayze, in or out of a dress.
There's a somebody I'm longing to see.
And there are no shots of Angela and Tom together, so I do wonder if there were multiple cameo appearance options as well. If anyone remembers, leave a comment below. It closed permanently in 1996, with the show going off the air, and was replaced the following summer with Hercules and Xena. Currently, Transformers sits there as a ride, no longer a show about how a TV show is made because the park has moved away from that aspect. Chapter 10, The Falling Out.
I want to just take this moment, because I haven't had many opportunities, to pay tribute to the man who made it possible in the first place, Peter Fisher, the wonderful executive producer, writer.
At the start of the 7th season, Murder, She Wrote lost one of its recurring guest stars. Bill Windham would no longer be available to film Murder, She Wrote, as he had accepted a role as a series regular on the TV version of Parenthood. The character wouldn't totally disappear, as there are times where Jess talks to him on the phone. He was replaced this season with the character of Ben Devlin, a journalist from Washington who now runs Sleepy Cabot Cove's newspaper. He only lasts this season, though, and is replaced by Seth Hazlitt again when Parenthood ended after 12 episodes. Things begin to get tense during this season between Angela and Peter Fisher. She had begun to get frustrated with the limitations of the character, and she felt the scripts were not great. One day, during a break on set, she handed a note to Fisher. "I've spent all these years building the character of Jessica into a first-class, highly intelligent, vivacious, energetic, and hopefully lovable woman. And for the sake of one script, you reduce her to the lowest common denominator by trying to pair her off to a chauvinistic fat old bore with whom she has nothing in common. Jessica has never wanted for companionship. She is never lonely. Her life as a woman alone is full and productive, and if she ever does want to get hitched again, it will undoubtedly be to a younger man, at least young at heart, who will be able to match her enthusiasm and zest for life, and with a real sense of humor." So, I don't know who she's talking about here, but it does bring up an interesting question. Who really knew Jessica Fletcher? Was she about retro idealism, a decent woman from a more decent time? Or was she a modern woman, someone contemporary and ready to move on from her quaint small town? Who owned Jessica? Was it the man who created her, or the woman who represented her? The one the audience viewed as the living embodiment of Jessica. Not helping with the tension was the fact that Fisher was keeping Angela out of the story process. Link expressed that was pretty uncommon, but Fisher's book explained how he had been burned before by letting actors dictate story elements and saw how that slowed down the process for Magnum P.I. when Tom Selleck got involved in stories, and he was trying to avoid that. According to Angela's biography, here is Fisher's response. "There are a lot of things I'll discuss with Angela. A lot of input I'll take. A lot of things we'll agree on, or at least agree to talk about. But the storytelling is not one of them. Because I feel that once a star of the show gets involved in the privileges and responsibilities of the executive producer, it takes away from the energy they spend performing and divides their focus. And frankly, some, I'm not sure about Angela, are not qualified. They can tell you whether a scene works, but they can't tell you whether a story works." He knew that, in the eyes of the audience at least, he was not the owner of Jessica. That was all the life Angela brought to the role. Rather than spend more time arguing, Fisher left at the end of the 7th season, taking line producer Bob O'Neill with him. Fisher was replaced by David Mosinger, who had been a producer on mystery shows like Quincy M.E. and Simon & Simon. And hey, look at that! Writer and director on Policewoman. That show keeps coming up too. The 8th season would bring in some changes.
David Mosinger, he came on board, and I always remember the first day he came to see me, and we sat in this room, and we talked about Murder, She Wrote. And we talked about how I wanted to get Jessica Fletcher out of Cabot Cove.
Now Jessica had taken up part-time residence in New York in a posh new apartment and had traded her typewriter in for a computer. According to Lansbury in her biography, "I wanted to show this woman as a participant in sport and the fun side of life. I felt it wasn't right for Jessica to devote her life to this rather confining avocation of solving little murders in a little village when she was becoming an internationally known author. The other thing was, this was an opportunity for her to go back to teaching. She had been a very good English teacher, so why not give her a master class at one of the New York universities? I wanted to take her further afield and grab them. make her a much more worldly person, which she wanted to be because she was a woman of education. In addition to the move to New York, the Cabot Cove episodes got a little more serious. Rather than goofy Deputy Floyd, there was the much more serious Deputy Andy now. Cabot Cove had a little more realism in later seasons. Chapter 11, More Shakeups. Season 9, David Mosinger is now out and Angela was in as executive producer of her own show.
But in the main, I was in a continual state of worry and flux about it. I thought, I've got to get my hands on these story ideas and scripts. I want to. So my son said to me, well, Mom, why don't you produce the show yourself? If you're so interested, you're so excited about this prospect of enlarging the life of Jessica Fletcher, do it, go for it. So I said, all right. So in 1992, I took it over.
As such, her son Anthony was now the primary director for the show. As CBS and Universal were coming to a deal about the show, there was more tension. Here's how Angela's agent Jerry Katzman described the situation. Universal and CBS couldn't get together. Each one was protecting its own turf. Universal's attitude was they didn't need to make the deal because ABC and NBC wanted the show too. CBS felt cornered because Murder, She Wrote was still their #1 show out of the entertainment division. Angela, feeling supportive of her home network that had been so good to her, decided to make a deal that Angela, through her production company Corrymore, would be exclusive to CBS. To continue Katzman, now Universal has to come to the network. They own Murder, She Wrote, but CBS has Angela, and Universal can't take it anywhere else. In return, CBS gives Angela various series commitments and movies of the week commitments for her production company, Corrymore. So what she was paid for Murder, She Wrote, now approaching $250,000 an episode, is insignificant compared to what all these other ancillaries provide her and her family.
I mean, the really heavy action is in the ancillary rights.
Yes, that's what my agent tells me.
The 9th season would also bring in Herb Edelman, who had been in 3 separate episodes as 3 separate characters, now playing recurring police lieutenant Artie Gelber. Unlike Cabot Cove, New York never got any additional regulars aside from Artie, and that's a little disappointing. Doormen didn't really stick around, or neighbors in the building. In fact, they do add a new regular in season 10, but she isn't a New Yorker, she's a Cabot Cove resident. Madeline Rue had been in a season 6 episode, but the story goes that Angela heard she was at risk of losing her health insurance. She created the character of Jean O'Neill, local librarian, for Rue to keep her insurance. I did also find this fun promotional that must have taken place during the 10th anniversary of the show. A sweepstakes to win a trip to Universal Studios Hollywood, where the show was filmed. Chapter 12, Killed by Friends. For the 12th and what would turn out to be the final season, CBS moved the show from its reliable Sunday night spot with the lead-in from 60 Minutes to Thursday nights to compete with, of all shows, Friends.
No one told you life was gonna be this way.
After going to bat for CBS against Universal, it certainly didn't make sense to Angela, who was emotional about the decision.
When they told me, I said, how can you do this to us? How can you put us into a totally non-win situation? I was just shocked and terribly unhappy and very mad, all of those things.
There's even an episode poking fun at Friends, although it isn't really mean-spirited.
Timmy, it really is a phenomenon. I mean, who would have thought a group of 20-something young people sitting around all day long discussing their sexuality would turn out to be a top TV show?
In case you're dying to know, they made Phoebe the killer. The reason given to Angela for this change in time slot was that CBS wanted to reconstruct Sunday nights to a younger audience. The final episode of Murder, She Wrote was about an old radio host being replaced by a young, obnoxious DJ. The title is Death by Demographics. Angela was obviously hurt.
I would have hopefully bowed out gracefully, that's all, instead of being hurried out the door, with a slap on the ass.
There was a time that...
I'll be honest, in every interview I've seen, she was extremely gracious about the show. But in 1999, when her biography was published, she definitely had some strong opinions on the show.
I got to tell you, as an actress, I was ready to throw in the sponge.
She hated the theme song. She thought it was too cutesy and bouncy, and would be better for a cooking show. Her biography describes feeling stuck in a vice, and that she was a hypocrite and not being true to herself.
Well, money was very, very, very important, let's face it. And that was about it, really.
She was frustrated with the writers, and, quoting her biography directly here, fed up with quaint Cabot Cove, its quaint people, and a quaint Jessica Fletcher. As far as I'm concerned, that's Little House on the Prairie time. It's important to note that this just captures her feelings at the time she was writing her biography, after doing 12 seasons and 1 TV movie. Peter Fisher's autobiography details a lot of really great times they shared, and, as I said before, she's always been extremely gracious about her time on the show in interviews I've seen. After her biography was published, she went on to star in 3 more TV movies, all of which were directed by her son. Chapter 13, Merchandise. As with all things that are successful, there was tie-in merchandise. In 1984, the first tie-in that came out along with the show's first season were a series of 4 550-piece mystery puzzle sets. These were not based on episodes, nor did you put together the image on the box. They came with a booklet with a short mystery about a murder with 3 suspects. The puzzle itself would be the crime scene. After completing the puzzle, you would examine closely for clues as to the killer's identity. I got these and thought they'd be a fun date night for my husband and me. I thought, oh, I'll just put on an episode of Murder, She Wrote, and we'll laugh and build a puzzle and it'll be great. But no, turns out I find putting together a puzzle blind kinda tedious. So this thing I thought would take an episode or 2 to finish spent days getting done slowly over time. When we were finally able to finish it along with a friend, we went over the story again and we were able to solve the murder. There were a couple clues we missed, but we caught the killer, so I count it. In 1985, there was a board game, the Murder, She Wrote board game by Warren Games. The game is for 4 to 6 players. At the start of the game, everyone leaves the room and comes in one at a time to draw a tile, revealing whether or not they are the killer. Only one player is secretly the killer, and they go around the board killing people on this resort island while the rest of the players try to figure out who the killer is. While in the narrative of the game everyone plays as Jessica Fletcher, my friends and I dressed up as Cabot Cove residents for our game night. Players check on the witnesses at the various locations on the island, leaving a small colored plastic ring when they visited. If the witness is dead, then the killer has already been to that location and silenced the witness. In order to win, the killer must kill 5 witnesses and escape the board via boat, or one of the Jessica players must correctly accuse the killer. We had a lot of fun with this one, and I actually caught the killer as they were trying to make their escape, making for an exciting end of the game. If you can find a complete game on eBay, I definitely recommend it. When I started my research, I was so hoping there would be an FMV game, and thankfully there was one. Made in 1996 by Centron Software, based on the 4 previously released puzzles. The acting is up to FMV standards.
The police spent all evening and solved nothing. It's a great pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Fletcher. My name is Jonathan Wadsworth, and I'm the director of this antique convention.
The most offensive thing is the decision to cast someone with a southern accent to play Jessica.
I've missed my connecting flight home, and I have 2 hours to kill before the next one. Do you know...
Piper, no!
Players can adjust how many pieces they want to put together, and after completing, they can solve the mystery. When playing the game, I noticed the FMV game created a new image based on the original puzzle, but it was not the original image we had physically pieced together. In 2009, Legacy Games released the Murder, She Wrote PC game. Players must first find all the missing vowels from Jessica's typewriter as well as the typewriter ribbon. Then players search the crime scenes for hidden objects, collecting clues and triggering cutscenes narrated by better actors than the FMV game.
The Lobster Pound is always the nerve center of the fishing community.
Occasionally, more challenging puzzles will appear for players to solve. A sequel game came out in 2012 with the same premise.
Oh dear.
And of course, there are books. Not the books Jessica writes, but in 1985, James Anderson adapted several episodes into books. Anderson had previously written Inspector Wilkins mysteries before being tasked with adapting The Murder of Sherlock Holmes as its own book. Hooray for Homicide and Deadly Lady were combined in a book just titled Hooray for Homicide. In 1986, a third book was released called Lovers and Other Killers that adapts that episode and It's a Dog's Life. Later on, in 1986, David Deutsch released Murder in Two Acts, which was adaptations of Sing a Song of Murder and Murder in the Afternoon. Starting in 1989, McGraw-Hill published the first book in the Jessica Fletcher spin-off book series, Gin and Daggers. The covers mostly feature Angela Lansbury's poorly photoshopped head on a model's body, and sometimes there's a hidden skull image as well. The books are each around 300 pages, and many of them are available on Audible. I really enjoyed Laurel Marrington's narration in the two books I listened to. I decided to read a couple books in the series. The first author was Donald Bain. Bain was an extremely prolific writer, writing at least 114 books, although he probably was a ghostwriter on quite a few more. Bain wrote a majority of the series that continues to today. He wrote this series along with his wife, Renee Paley Bain, until their deaths in 2017 and 2016 respectively. Together, they wrote a total of 47 books. For them, I read Prescription Murder because it took place in my hometown of Tampa, Florida.
Or as us tampons like to call it, home of Hulk Hogan.
Seth Hazlitt has more or less retired to Tampa, where he spends a lot of his time with Dr. Alvaro Vasquez, a Cuban defector who is working on a cure for Alzheimer's. Of course, Seth's friend dies mysteriously, and it's up to Jessica and Seth and the Tampa Police Department to solve the case. I was surprised the books were written from a first-person perspective, since on the show, even though Jessica is the main character, she is not in every scene, and we, the audience, are often privy to information Jessica is not. The book is a pretty light read, but I thought Jessica and Seth both acted as they would have on the show. I went in hoping to see certain Tampa locales like the Straz or Tampa Theater, but she didn't visit those. There were lots of Tampa locales that made me go, that Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Like, she goes to the Hunter's Green Country Club outside of Tampa that I spent a lot of time at as a kid because my mom was an aerobics instructor there. Or she goes to the Columbia restaurant where the real manager for a time, Richard Gonsmart, shows up and has a charming interaction with Jessica while she's dining. A conversation the author clearly had with Gonsmart in real life. I was friends with his daughter in high school, so it's nice to know that Jessica and I have canonically interacted with the same person. Donald Bain's final book, A Date with Murder, was co-written by John Land. Land then took over as author of the series for the next 5 books.
So in my head, I thought, I've never written a mystery. I've never written first person. I've never written from the viewpoint of an older woman. So my answer, of course, was yes, count me in.
I read his last one, Murder in Season. I found that Land got several details wrong that were on the show. For instance, in this book, Jessica talks about how she struggled to get published for years. This is not how it played out in the show, however. She never intended to be published. Grady got her first book published. By the second episode, she's already published multiple books, so at no point did she struggle with publishing. He also gets details about Grady's adoption wrong. He says that Deputy Andy started under Sheriff Tupper when he was a late season addition. It's odd to get information wrong from the pilot, but he does get other details correct, like how Frank and Jessica met. A lot of recurring characters from the show appeared in the book I read, including Seth Hazlitt, Sheriff Metzger, Deputy Andy, Harry McGraw, Grady, Donna, their son Frank, an Ethan Cragg reference, and even a phone call from Amos Tupper. The characters are pretty accurate to their TV show personas, except for Donna, who in this version is less goofy and is characterized as being extremely quiet and shy and nervous around Jessica, with basically no dialogue. I found these inconsistencies odd, and so I watched an interview with John Land, and he states that he and Donald Bain were to work on books together, with Land eventually taking over.
It's easy to own the characters you create. They're yours. It's like when you take a dog as a puppy and you raise it. It's like your own kid. But Jessica Fletcher was like a shelter dog. I had no idea you bring a dog into the house, you have no idea of its background. No matter what anybody tells you, you have no idea what that dog went through.
Sadly, Bain passed away early into their first collaboration with only the concept and a few pages written of A Date with Murder.
I'm done with the series now. I got fired after 6 books. I'd like to say why, but they still haven't told me.
Starting in 2025, authors Barbara Early and Terry Farley Moran took over the series, with each appearing to be publishing books independently. Each author has a book coming out this year in the series. I read Debonair in Death by Terry Farley Moran, and that felt a lot closer to the show than either the Donald Bain book I read or the John Land book. But also, this one centered around the ladies from the beauty parlor, which are my favorite, so that probably factored into my enjoyment of it. In 1996, with the end of the series, the unofficial casebook came out, which was basically IMDb before IMDb. It had each episode listed along with the plot, the cast, and trivia. Also that year, the Murder, She Wrote cookbook was released. This included recipes and interviews from the cast and crew. I made Angela Lansbury's cottage pie recipe. Brown 4 pounds of lean ground beef, and in a large pot melt 2 tablespoons of butter. Add celery, carrots, onions, and leeks. Cook for 20 minutes. Mix in beef with the vegetables and add a cup of tomato puree and 3/4 cup of chicken broth. Mix together and pour mixture into a baking dish. Bake for 15 minutes at 350 degrees. Take out of the oven, add peas to the mixture and top with mashed potatoes. Put back in the oven for 45 minutes. This was delicious, and we of course watched an episode of Murder, She Wrote while enjoying Angela's recipe. In recent years, NECA has released 2 Jessica Fletcher figures. One, a more cartoonish figure with limited points of articulation. The figure comes with a purse, a flashlight, and a stand. You can also cut out the back of the box to provide a background for the figure. The other is a highly detailed, incredibly posable doll-like figure. She comes with an additional head to change her expression, as well as a pair of glasses. There's a small version of her royal typewriter, as well as a copy of her first novel, The Corpse Danced at Midnight. NECA also released this adorable plush. Chapter 14, Legacy. While doing research for this video, I decided to watch Policewoman since it kept coming up in all these books and interviews. I was pretty shocked by how the show treated its leading lady, Angie Dickinson. Dickinson played Sergeant Pepper Anderson, an undercover police officer working for the Criminal Conspiracy Unit of the LAPD. The show didn't seem to have a lot of respect for her as a character and lead. She frequently has to go undercover in some kind of skimpy outfit. She's often kidnapped or held hostage and needs to be rescued by her male colleagues in the final act. Episode 3 in particular surprised me. She's being held captive by a serial rapist and killer, and he cuts the top of her shirt so that it comes undone while he holds her at knife point on the roof, her top coming off. Angie Dickinson hated the role.
Do you regret doing the series?
I regret doing the series.
Really?
It just sapped me of 4 years of my life. But,
So why did you take it?
David Gerber was the producer, and he said, "Don't you want to be a household name?" And that did it. I realized I wanted to be a household name.
There's a story in Angela Lansbury's biography where she talks about how the success of Murder, She Wrote changed her level of fame. She was having dinner with Bob O'Neill on the Queen Mary when patrons started to come up with their menus for Angela to sign. She told Bob, "You know, until recently I could go to the grocery store and nobody would bother me. Now all of a sudden, this."
Now all of a sudden as we were eating, people start coming over with their menus and asking her to autograph it. She realized that she was being recognized, and no longer was she just an everyday person walking down the street. And she gave me a sly look and she said, "Oh no, I do my own grocery shopping."
Unlike Dickinson, Lansbury was always treated with dignity by the show. The writers of Murder, She Wrote recognized the problems with shows like Policewoman and wouldn't dream of putting their heroine in any situations like Pepper Anderson had to deal with. With that said, there were obviously disagreements between Angela and the writers. Because Angela was raised by a politically minded father and artistic mother, she felt strongly that one should use their platform to stick up for those in need. During the AIDS crisis, Angela would have PSAs run before the show.
You may think you can't get AIDS because you're not in a high-risk group, but risk comes from what you do, not who you are. Get the facts.
Rather than throw a party for the 200th episode, Angela had CBS donate $200,000 to AMFAR, the Foundation for AIDS Research. She wanted more female writers behind the scenes, and she wanted more diversity on screen. Once Angela had control of the show, you can see those changes implemented. Because of this, I'm surprised there hasn't been more of a cultural reappraisal of Murder, She Wrote like there has been for shows like Golden Girls. It seems silly in hindsight that there was ever any concern about a female-led hour-long drama. Just think of how many shows we have seen. Hell, CBS has 2 currently airing. And on some level, we have actresses like Angela Lansbury to thank for proving to networks it could be successful. Aside from that, the character of Jessica Fletcher is just a very compelling one. She's from a small town, but she's modern and sophisticated. She's always the smartest in the room, but she never wants to make people uncomfortable. She's extraordinarily good at reading people and always knows the best way to approach them. But the modern takeaway seems to be how deadly being around her can be. There are some exceptions. In particular, I really like the cameos in the Rian Johnson mysteries Knives Out and Glass Onion. Glass Onion feels special because it was Angela's last on-screen role, and she got to, essentially, play Jessica Fletcher one last time.
Blanc, I saw you go in the engine room. You're the imposter. We all know it. Case closed. We're done.
While I don't feel the show has had much cultural reappraisal, it certainly has an impact that is felt today. There are murder mystery solve-alongs, and each year there is a Murder, She Wrote festival held in Mendocino, California, where some of the Cabot Cove exteriors were filmed. There are tours of filming locations, a bar crawl, and even a Jessica jog. Actors Michael Horton and Debbie Zipp, who played Grady and Donna on the show and are married in real life, attend the event. There's a movie announced with Jamie Lee Curtis as J.B. Fletcher. It's directed by Jason Moore. My favorite film he directed was Pitch Perfect.
This is a surprise.
He's also directed the Tina Fey and Amy Poehler comedy Sisters.
No, you look great. That's a snazzy belt.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, congrats on your wrestling championship.
And Shotgun Wedding starring Jennifer Lopez.
I just want to ask, and I hope it's okay, is that genetics? Or is it like Pilates?
Your mom. The writers, Rebecca Angelo and Lauren Shooker Bloom, have written one film called Dumb Money.
$1 million? What are you gonna do? Get a Ferrari? What the?
Oh, language. The baby's here.
It's about the GameStop stock market situation.
A lot of people feel the system is broken. The whole idea of the stock market is if you're smart and maybe with a little luck you can make your fortune. Certainly not anymore. There's no hope for the little guy.
I'm very curious to see what this film will look like, besides the fact that it will likely be a comedy and probably less focused on being a clever mystery. I don't know that either the director or the writers have experience creating the kind of puzzle mysteries the show was known for, but I'm optimistic about the film. Hopefully it's successful. It was originally slated for release on December 2027, but has now been pushed back to February 2028. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed, please like and leave a comment.
And that, as they say, is all she wrote.